President Trump says Greenland is essential to America's national security and future missile defense, especially as Russia and China expand their presence in the Arctic. Joining us now to break down the stakes is retired veteran Brigadier General Jan Teichert. Good morning to you, sir. Great to see you.
Good morning, Jan. Thanks for having me.
How critical is Greenland's location when it comes to missile detection, early warning systems, and this proposed Golden Dome, especially as Russia and China expand sort of their footprint there in the Arctic?
Jan, I would encourage your viewers to take a look at our globe from the North Pole looking down, and you'll see that the largest landmass in the Arctic is Greenland. You'll see that it is the choke point for any commerce that would travel in the Arctic Ocean, especially along the north edge of North America. And you'll notice that it is the biggest landmass that is between Russia and the east coast of the United States. All of those reasons make it very geostrategically important. And the good news is that we have very active mechanisms with Greenland and with Denmark that allow us to use that landmass for the benefit of NATO and the United States. We don't need to own it. We just need to use it. We currently have a Space Force base there, and we need to continue to find opportunities for mutual benefit alongside of our allies and partners.
I'm glad you said that. It's the first thing I did when this all came down. I wanted to see how big it was. It is massive. So great idea to look at it from the North Pole perspective as well. Turning to the Middle East right now, what risks does the violence in Iran pose beyond its borders, especially, for American forces and U.S. allies there in the region? And what should the White House and policymakers be keeping a close eye on right now?
Jan, we have about 50,000 Americans that are in the Middle East deployed there in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, UAE, Qatar, and other locations. And all of those individuals are at risk if Iran makes the decision to launch those ballistic missiles. They probably have about 1,000 of them against U.S. assets in the region. U.S. Central Command is poised currently to defend against any threat that Iran could levy. And right now, that would be an act of desperation by the regime in Iran that indicates that they see the regime falling and they're trying to do whatever they can to shore up support to stop the Ayatollah from having to step down. But I think we're on a pathway now where the regime is at real risk, which means that possibly Iran will do something desperate.
Big day for President Trump right now at the White House, where he's meeting with Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. How soon should Venezuela realistically, do you think, move toward elections? And what kind of timeline would make sense to stabilize the country?
Jan, right now it seems like the acting president Rodriguez is sufficiently compliant to U.S. interests and demands that slowed down the clock a little bit. And Secretary Rubio has talked about a three-phase plan, which is stabilize, recover, and then transition. But it is in the best interest of the United States and the Venezuelan people to accelerate that process towards transition. They had elections in 2024. Gonzalez, who's now in exile in Spain, soundly won those elections. Machado is massively popular, and it legitimizes our activities in Venezuela. The more quickly, maybe within the next 6 months, that we can either establish that duly elected government from 2024 or stand up elections as quickly as possible to hit that transition phase that Rubio talks about.
You think we can do that without boots on the ground, or do you think some level of military presence is unavoidable? And also, what does success look like for Venezuela in the near future?
Jan, success for the United States looks like they are complying with or aligned with U.S. interests, and there's a duly elected government there in place that meets the will of the Venezuelan people. I firmly believe we do not need U.S. boots on the ground, especially because that large American armada in the Caribbean is keeping any of the rogue elements of the former regime in check. I think as long as Rodriguez continues to be compliant, then that threat of U.S. force is sufficient, and we won't need U.S. boots on the ground in Venezuela.
How interconnected are these global flashpoints, Greenland, Iran, and Venezuela, when it comes to all of these global security challenges?
Jan, there are real malign actors around the world that wish to do harm to the United States. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. And probably the greatest linkage that we see in those hot spots today is that we serve and we deter and we can defeat if necessary alongside of a broad and trusting network of allies and partners that we created at the end of World War II, that we have maintained. And we need to take a good look to make sure that we nurture the trusting nature of those allies and partners that uniquely benefit the United States. And I suspect that in any challenge that we face around the globe, we'll need friends alongside of us. And we need to make sure they are there alongside of us because we've taken care of them in the good times.
Retired veteran Brigadier General Jan Teichert. Always great to see you, sir. Thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks, Jen.